All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, in this one, I am joined by my buddy Alex from the Wild Wild West podcast. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Not much. Just here, Red Friday. Ready ready for the weekend. So appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course, of course. Obviously, it's week 4, and the Jets are going to be at home, MetLife Stadium, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs prime time. And Alex, just gonna cut right to the chase here. In your opinion, look, there's a lot of people out there that are viewing this game as pretty, I hate to say it, but like an automatic win for Kansas City. Like, you watch TV shows, check out different, people's takes. There's a lot of people, frankly, looking at this game again as just, it's not even going to be a question on who is going to win. Where do you kind of stand on that? Like, honestly, are you looking at this game as, oh, this one's in the bag, no problem? Or are you thinking defense? They got a couple of nice, explosive playmakers on offense.
Mhm.
Potentially, like the Jets could come out, angry and wanting to prove a lot of people wrong. Where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I mean, uh, as a Chiefs fan, I never like to think anything's a sure lock because as recent evidence will show, like Colts game last year, some of those games absolutely will be an embarrassing loss. So, I always want to be timid on that kind of approach, especially in the NFL with the margins of error and margins of difference really between the teams kind of pretty minimal. Um, I mean, I can't deny, Jets obviously have an elite defense, elite group of playmakers on that side of the ball. I just think what's really going to boil down to is, how the Chiefs are set up to just, it's kind of like a track meet for them, right? Like we're just going to outscore whoever. So, I mean, assuming, assuming that they can kind of keep the status quo there, I just see it being hard for Zach Wilson and the Jets offense to be able to kind of keep up with them. Um, so, with that, I do expect them to win, just given the current posture of where the two teams are at versus, what this matchup looked like going into the season. But I don't think it's going to be like it was last week playing the Bears, where they were just, scoring at will and pulling the starters by the third quarter.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. One thing that I've always because I'm not watching the Chiefs every snap and I'm not watching them like super, like highly invested or anything like that. But one thing that I've always been pretty curious on is from a Chiefs fan's perspective, right? Just when you look across the NFL, whether it's, a team like Philly, whether it's a team like Buffalo, Cincinnati, whoever it may be, who's the one team? Because obviously the Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champs. They've had so much success under Reid and Mahomes here. What's the one team that you guys kind of look at where the panic level rises, or you could, and again, whoever it is, Cincinnati, Buffalo, you're looking at them almost like a kryptonite. Obviously, Casey has always had pretty much the upper hand, but is there one or two teams out there that you just look at, whether it's the personnel, the coaching staff, or how they play, and you're like, man, they are they match us in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the two right on the head there. With, I mean, obviously Cincinnati and Buffalo have been the two as of late that we seem to always end up playing to move on. In the down into the playoffs. 2 years ago, or yeah, 2 years ago. I mean, since he got our number and got us out of the AFC Championship, but I feel like those are the two teams that kind of seem to tweak and build their roster with the mindset of competing with the Chiefs. And it's like you'll see them and play someone else, and it's a totally close game, and then somehow they play KC in the regular season and just make them look terrible. But
Mhm.
with that being said, like they've always seemed to have our number in the regular season, but then when it really matters, Chiefs find a way to win. And another one that's on the ad, which it's crazy that it's like the AFC East is just blowing up in potential suitors to combat the Chiefs later on. But I think the Dolphins are one to watch too, just the way that they're looking this year. With that their explosive offense, and they kind of seem to be one that would be able to match KC's recent success, or and I guess expected offensive flow that we'll have, at that time of the year.
Mhm. Gotcha, man. Gotcha. And what's cool is, I actually, a couple months ago when the Jets brought in Mecole Hardman, right? That was a big signing for the Jets. It was a 1-year deal. Like, to me, it kind of came out of left field. I wasn't really expecting the Jets to make a move like that, but they
Yeah,
did. And Hard, you hopped on the channel and you were kind of breaking them down, talking about the speed, the explosive plays down the field. And man, it's almost like mind-boggling because the Jets have, I'm sure one of the uh least explosive, like you just look at the offensive numbers, it's one of the worst in football. In some
yeah,
categories, it is the worst. And then Mecole Hardman isn't even getting in the games. And it's like, what is going on here? I'm not saying if you put him in, we're going to just start dropping, 35 plus, but it kind of makes you question the decision. Like, why is he on the bench? Like, what is going on here? Is he in the doghouse? I was wondering from your perspective, obviously you guys lost him last season, but he was with you
hmm
guys for, quite a bit. How did you view Mecole Hardman? Like at the time, like a valued member of the team? Was he just kind of like that third, fourth guy in your eyes where it's just like, hey, we can let him walk, no big deal. He's not really going to do much with any other team. I mean, this is like a big topic amongst Jets fans right now, and it's
yeah.
pretty confusing and pretty frustrating.
Yeah, well, and I know when we were setting this up, that's like one of my first questions. Like, dude, what is happening? Because you feel bad for him, but I mean, obviously the athletic ability is there, right? Like he's, I mean, known to be the one to blow the top off of defense and be the deep threat. Probably part of the reason that the Jets, made it a focal point to bring him in. I think probably what happened, my perception as the outsider looking in, I think he just kind of got lost in the shuffle because it seemed like, they brought in, and I might be wrong a little bit on the signing times, but it's like Lazard brought in, Cobb brought in. You had those two undrafted wide receivers that seemed to be
Mhm.
kind of hidden gems. So I think it was just more of a, lost in the shuffle. And I think what really impacted kind of probably the way he's viewed is, last year, at least from Chiefs perspective, like that was supposed to be his year to kind of take that next step forward. And, for whatever reason, he didn't. It just didn't seem to mesh with, him kind of like, I know I mentioned that when we talked about the signing, you could see parts of the game where they were trying to give him like the Tyreek role and give him those downfield shots, and him and Mahomes just couldn't connect for whatever reason. And be like half a step off on the throw and things like that. So I think there's enough film out there to know that like while he is, as fast as anyone could be in the league and has all those tools, he just can't put it all together to, produce on a consistent basis. But with that being said, I'm like, he's also never played an offense where you have a clear cut number one guy like Garrett Wilson to take attention away and
Mhm.
open things up. I mean, when he was the most productive is when you had the full blown, full blown Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey at their peak peak abilities, and he was able to kind of be the fish swimming around the shark and get get the scraps. But I mean, definitely carved out a role. Um, but yeah, I mean, you certainly feel bad for him kind of making the signing and then just not playing. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, he is getting paid millions of
Yeah,
dollars to just kind of sit around. So, I mean, kind of lose
yeah.
my sympathy after that. But
Yeah, no, I mean it's a good point, right? Where you can talk about Hardman and like the Chiefs' offense, and of course, like Mahomes is the one throwing in the ball, and Andy Reid is dialing up everything, running the show offensively. But man, I got to be honest, like if he was out there for the Jets and he was just not on the same page as Wilson, or he was lining up in the wrong areas or dropping a bunch of passes, or just didn't really show like a bunch of enthusiasm, then that would be one thing. But the fact that he just can't even like crack the lineup. He's only literally getting a handful of snaps every week. And that's
yeah,
what's so frustrating because it's not like, oh man, we have such a stacked roster and we have just studs all over the place and the offense is just humming every week that we don't really need them. It's like we really need them and we could really use his skill set, but for whatever reason, he's just not entering the game, which is, again, just a bit crazy in my opinion. But last question I had for you, man, what is really to you the biggest weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think when you talk about other teams in football, it's like other teams have an apparent Achilles heel, but Kansas
Yeah.
City, it's so hard, right? I just feel like the one area that the Chiefs have that no other team has, Buffalo a little bit, but it's the quarterback extending the play, right? I feel like it
Hmm.
doesn't really matter how many guys the defense throws at Mahomes. He always finds a way to escape, elude, and he's holding onto the football and he's running around. He's making defenders look silly. He can roll out to the right and fake a guy out and then, pick up a quick eight for, on a third down, pick up a
Yeah.
first, or just launch it across his body and get a 50-yard touchdown bomb. Like, it's just crazy. How are you viewing this Chiefs team? Where is the one negative that the Jets can expose on Sunday?
Yeah. And honestly, considering the matchup with the Jets, I think where I'm going to say the biggest negative is with the Chiefs kind of plays into the Jets' strong suit defensively. Obviously you got Patrick Mahomes, like high-powered offense, very vertical attack, but I've always said that the biggest crux with them and where you find them being in close games are like Detroit, for example, losing games like that. Put a little asterisk to it because Kelsey wasn't there, but kind of the lack of a consistent running game. So like the first 2 weeks, Mahomes was the leading rusher, with I think 35, 40 yards. And it's like, yeah, we obviously have an all world quarterback, but any football fan and football player knows that you kind of have to use the run at times to set things up later. And they kind of get in this, I don't know if it's like Reed's bored with wanting to do just traditional things, but it's like they don't ever just commit to running the ball. And
Hmm.
honestly, at times, especially in the past, that's how they've lost games. Like, I mentioned losing to the Bengals in that AFC Championship game. I wrote a giant article breaking that down on Arrowhead Addict about how they just stopped running the ball in the second half. So then once you get into points where you're out of running the ball, then you're not connecting on your pass plays, and then you're going 3 and outs and taking 1 minute of time off the clock and getting the offense set right back up. And you heard Mahomes talk about that last week too, that they have to be better at committing to the run and sticking to it because that helps set everything else up. And I mean, I know we were playing the Bears, which is, it's kind of a dumpster fire esque franchise right now, especially with all the crap that happened in the week leading up to that game. But you definitely saw them, emphasize the run a bit more. I mean, both Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 15 carries apiece, and you kind of saw that they were able to do a lot more in the passing game versus the previous 2 weeks where it was give Pacheco a carry here and there, and then just try to they're try to go through the passing attack. So it's like sometimes they get to this point where their running game is a quick bubble or like a quick slant, and we know we're going to get 3-4 yards, and that's our running game. But which is cool, but sometimes it's you just can't connect, and then that's where you find them kind of hit this little lull period in games, or just in terms of moving the ball, where they abandon the run. And I know I talked on the Wild West podcast is that was a big key to me for this game, especially because I think the ultimate goal is you have to just wear down the Jets defense. And I mean, they're obviously good against the run and have probably one of the best, cornerback trios in the league. So I think that's with both of those things in mind, that's, here where they're going to need to really emphasize giving Pacheco the ball, giving Clyde Edwards-Helaire the ball, using McKinnon out of the backfield to open up things later on. Otherwise, they could be in for a little bit of a rude awakening in terms of trying to move the ball in MetLife.
Gotcha, man. Gotcha. Yes, it's going to be super interesting. It's kind of crazy that the game's on prime time. I know it's not the
Right.
matchup that everybody was hoping for. Mahomes Rogers, that would have been epic, right? On just like a Sunday night slot. But hey, I
Right.
appreciate you taking the time, hopping on, man. And by the way, for everybody watching, all of Alex's links are listed down below in the description box. But thanks so much, man.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate you having me on. And I know you probably don't want me to say it, but go Chiefs.
All good, man. All good. Thanks for everybody for checking out the channel, hanging out, watching. And yeah, as always, go Jets.